We're live. We'll wait for a few minutes for some people to stream in and for YouTube to pick up the algorithm on a couple different places that we're streaming at to make sure it comes out. And Matt, I'll make sure I got to send you the links, the YouTube links too, so you got them, so you can forward them to your people. Because I've got all kinds of people are asking me now, hey, I don't know how to log on, but I want to watch your show, right? And so I've been forwarding the links to people until we figure out technically how to get them. So again, welcome to Lunch with Lumbermen with Matt Layman from the Layman's Lumber Guide. I don't even know how many episodes we've done, Matt, but if you
look back, I saw an email from about a month ago that said this is our 21st episode. So
yeah,
we got to be like 25 or so.
We're counting up there, and I will tell you, I mean, we're getting a lot of views on everything. So I did yesterday with This Week in Lumber with Charles De La Torre, filled in for Matt Beamer, and just got off the phone with Charles a bit ago, and he actually had a bunch of people calling from our show that wanted to buy lumber from him, right? And the cool thing is, he's like, hey, go through the exchange to do it, right? Since they saw it on, which is cool. So we need to figure out how to monetize that a little bit better. But the thing is, our shows are changing the industry because now people are coming here on a regular basis to watch this, to get good information or good information, different information, to hear things. So again, this is Lunch with Lumbermen. Matt and I do this every week on Thursdays at noon. Yesterday we had a show with Greg Riley. We have a guest show next week on that one, an economist. And that's everything's at 12 noon. And then Tuesday we've got our new Futures for Dummies. So we're going to try that one out, Matt, and see how it goes.
That should fill up quickly.
Yeah. Me being a dummy helping teaching it. Yeah. So but it's amazing how much people talk about that. Random Links did it one time. How many people talk about futures, but how few people actually trade it, right? But how people always point to it and talk about it. So
when they want to beat you with it, they show it to you.
Yeah. So everybody, please put your comments over into the bleep bloop box over here. Say where you're from. I hope our buddy from Hong Kong's on again. He was on again yesterday.
Yeah, Chris.
Chris. Yeah, Chris is great. Chris is on from Hong Kong all the time. Is Nick here from Chicago? Let's see if Nick's from Chicago. Let's see if Nick is from Chicago.
Poke his head around the corner.
I'm doing it a little bit different today, Matt. See, I'm doing it from everybody's out. Nick.
Was that Nick?
Nick from Hong Kong. That's awesome. All right, well, let's kick into this and start talking about a little bit about the market. You and I chatted today on the phone about, and we'll start it out like this and maybe move into it. Big premiums out there right now on the futures, and cash seems to be moving a little bit in the last week or two. Look, we sold off tremendously. I still don't think that the market has moved through issues of high-priced lumber, and I know that from some of the things I went out to look at lumber that was a little bit older, weathered. Hey, guys, if wood comes in before April, you should get it out before July. Just a little bit of advice to everybody.
The same year, too. That's not the year after. That's the same year.
If wood comes in before April, get it out before July.
Think of it as a banana. It's not going to stay ripe forever.
If it comes in before July, get it out before Labor Day. Just like we don't like going to the fridge and drinking a beer from 2 years ago. So
that's assuming people are storing their lumber outside and it's uncovered. I mean, if you got it covered, paper wrapped, playing by the rules, you're gonna be okay. But you just don't sit Southern Pine outside all summer and expect it to look nice and pretty like the day you got it.
Yeah, no doubt. So we talked a little bit. I loved reading this in the Sunday edition. So last Friday, all of a sudden, market's up limit. Everybody's as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And hey, Matt, it's nothing to go up $40 anymore in a day and then go down 40 in a day, and it creates trader fatigue. So it's dry as a tinderbox up there in a lot of places. So Friday it was a log deck fire, right? That drove everything up.
British Columbia, yeah.
And
actually Thursday afternoon. And the thing is, the media published these big blazing fires. What they didn't show you was how big is that fire in relation to the entire log deck. which
Yeah.
was, they said it's $1 million worth of timber loss. Yeah, well, how much is their whole inventory? Have they got 30 billion or 20 million? Or,
Yeah,
but,
it's unfortunate because there's a lot of stuff up there, right, going on, and hopefully, I don't know if there's already rain in the forecast. Hopefully, to get this
yeah,
stuff.
they got a bunch of rain last week. I think it was.
Oh, thank God! I mean, that's good.
I
I
think all
hopefully
the fire threats been dismantled.
very very cool. So, basis, and we were talking about why is it out there so wide? Back to this. I guess what we've kicked around the ideas are recency bias. Beamer always brings up the recency bias, right? Um, everybody sitting here right now doesn't want to be stuck having to buy lumber they have sold at 400 at $1,800 a thousand, right? So all of a sudden, I guess futures carries a premium. You know, nobody wants to hedge anything, even though there's great basis. I don't know. What's your thought on why there's such a wide spread out there?
Well, Sean just had a comment, 1680 open interest, and that's the ticket. It's just,
Yeah, good point, Sean.
it's not that, I mean, and you think, well, what is 1680 in relation to? 1680 is in relation to just recently having spent a month at 1800, which is down from an average of like 3,000. So the open interest for lumber futures is just dying. Like in Sean's question, is it really a factor anymore? Is really relevant? And it's gotten so thin, it's hard to even hedge with it because mills have quit doing it, and it's just really it's really like a gambling slot machine, like it's just having a slot machine in your basement that just costs you 10 grand to play every time.
Hey, if you're forward sold right now, it looks pretty good because you got you're long the futures and short the cash, and you're coming out of that pretty nice right now. But if you're on the hedge side, you gotta wait the other way, right?
Yeah, and I can't imagine who would have been doing the other way, where being long the futures and short the cash with $150 spread between you giving up that much gap to start with. But
yeah, for sure. There's no question about that. That's a great point. So I think that's one of the reasons why the base is out there, and I think what these we'll talk about it Tuesday and futures for dummies too is that I think that people have to start looking at where's the diminishing fiber basket and where's the growing fiber basket, and maybe get a contract more relevant to what's really going on in the world, right?
yeah,
And
that's going to be tough to do because it's the destination origin dilemma.
yeah,
From the
or
stuff
yeah,
anywhere else.
educate people on making the delivery easier. Maybe make micro contracts where you can deliver trucks instead of cars. And but who knows? But right now, Sean's point is great. 1,680 open interest is pretty low, and that's interesting. Let's go through the items. Let's bring up your 2x4 chart here. The 2x4 12-month.
Here's what I want to point something out. A guy told me this morning after reading my report last night. He said, so basically you don't have any idea what's going to happen between now and the end of the year. And I thought, well, I thought I was a little more specific than that. Maybe I was too ambiguous, but I said, look at the picture at the bottom of the page, and where we've been follows those FTP lines just very very well. And I've been very clear about since the end of August. I told all my guys, all my members, at the end of August, buy to cover through the end of October, because the price is going to rise in September, and you don't want to be getting into late September having to buy lumber. And here's what's happening. Wholesalers are calling around telling everybody they got to buy lumber because the mills are active, prices are up. And this is nothing abnormal. This is the September surge or September rally is what's expected. It's happening. And where I get off differently than other people right now, I'm not talking about what you should do today. I'm talking about what you should do to wrap up your position. The position for our members has been being covered for 2 months, September and October, and being ready to buy again the third or fourth week of October for the November winter rally. So my conversations sound more bearish because I'm talking about what's happening next, not what's happening tomorrow or next week, but what's the next positioning.
Well, let's talk about that before we go to the other charts, Matt. I'm going to go through some other items, but inventory in the pipeline. I mean, we talked yesterday about, Greg had a good point about run rate. Homes permitted but not started yet is at certainly at a yearly high. We got to go back to see how historically high that is. Again, back to your theory of you can only fit 10 pounds. You can't fit 40 pounds of birdseed into a 10-pound bag, right?
And we're only going to do, and I think it's the thing that concerns me about the market right now is that 1.7 and 1.6 to 1.7 each starts and permits implies that builders are starting homes, or they're taking delivery of lumber packages. That wood's moving to the job site. It's getting started. But the problems that's got the completion stuck at 1.3 are not going away. They still need windows and doors and toilet seats and screens and countertops. And I saw a number yesterday on CNBC. There were 70 ships floating off the coast of California looking for ports to get into.
If you go on LinkedIn and you look at every logistical company, they put that stat out there every day at nauseum, right? Where it's like, hey, I don't know what's normal. If there's normally 10, 20, 50, or 70, but you can go on LinkedIn now and see every logistical company showing how many containers are out there, right?
I saw a guy in Fresno last week on the news, and I think we might have mentioned this during the show, but he said there's normally one boat floating off the coast, waiting for a place at the port. He said that week there were 40.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed too, they're full of a whole bunch of stuff that I don't need and don't want to buy. Like, I don't need another big screen TV or
Yeah.
or fireworks, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but unfortunately, it's holding everything else up. So, inventory in the pipeline. You and I had this conversation, and I'm going to go back to phantom inventory. You and I know people ourselves that are people that traditionally never bought inventory, have warehouses full, and are now coming to me saying, "Hey, can you get some more warehouses for me so I can load up with stuff?" Normally bought down the chain farther, had people hold it, and I. One of the guys on our call a couple weeks ago said it's really frustrating to him because it's a factor out there that's rather, you know, it's always the small amount of lumber that moves lumber prices up or down. I don't know if anybody realizes that our inventory is always in check pretty good in this industry. And when people have that extra amount of inventory sitting out there, it throws things off a little bit. And
If you think about it too, Shelly, for the market to move it, inventory doesn't swing to like 50% gets gone to the mills, 50% to the buyer, and it gets all the way out of whack. All it takes is 2 or 3 percentage points of inventory shift, and you've got the supplies either underbought or overbought, or it's just out of balance. So it doesn't take a lot, like you said. It just you get 3 weeks of movement from mill to the distributor to the wholesalers to the supplier side, and that's all it needs to change the momentum of the price of the market. And then it's just how aggressive everybody gets after it from that point. And that's kind of dependent upon where you are in the year. We talked about this at the beginning too. There's a big difference in building inventories right now versus building inventories in January and February when we're coming into the spring, and now we're coming into the fall and the winter. October is historically a liquidation month. September is kind of a recovery month from having liquidated through the summer. If you look at where our prices peaked out there at week number 20 all the way down to week number 36, that was a huge liquidation of inventory. So naturally, people needed to buy some stuff.
Yeah.
Now they've done that, and my indication is they've done a lot of it, and nobody's sitting on bare bones inventory. Most people that I talk to are sitting on excessive inventories, and they continue to replace it as they run out. But October is a time when people start thinking about colder weather, shorter days, less job site demand. It's just a natural flow of the market, and I think we got another week of up move in the cash market, and October should probably be a down month.
So where do you think the and I don't know, but I mean the feedback I'm getting from some of the end users and other people they're getting a lot of calls from secondaries that get a feeling that they've bought a lot, because the narrative everybody's pushing is that it's different this time, and there's a new normal, and you got to buy inventory because nobody ever wants to say it's because of their position they're long and they need it to go up, right?
But you said this last week. Just ask them what their position is. What is it? Yeah. How much inventory do you have compared to March and April?
Yeah, that's
the same. And what are your intentions? Are you gonna continue to replace and build, or are you selling to get out? So are you selling to me high so you can get back in low?
That's a great question. So like some of these big trading houses actually keep a whole global inventory of how long they are and how short they are. I mean, if you're buying from those people, ask them how long they are traditionally against last month, the month before, and all that. So when that's good information for people, find out how long they are. And like I asked Greg the other day, and he was like long but hedged, right? Which is I guess
I believe in it.
I always want to know what everybody's net position is. Are you long net, or short net, right? And then you can find out what everybody does, what's in people's best interest, right? And that's the
Yeah,
best way to find
and
it.
it's hard to it's going to be hard to get people to tell you that too, because they know what you're asking. Are you trying to discover whether I'm liquidating my inventory or are you accumulating inventory? Like if I'm a buyer and I've got a good supplier, I want to be buying when you're buying. I don't want to be buying a month after you bought when you're trying to get out.
And a lot of people do that for it. A lot of people let people
Yeah,
know that. Yeah, and there's good suppliers that do that. They say, hey, we're just starting to build a position. Would you like to jump on with us? Right? That's
yeah, and because we're in this stage of the game in the market where we are right now, the only people that are left in the market that are making it fluffy right now are just-in-time buyers. They're the guys that come to work every day. They look and say, well, we finally ran out of those 2x10s and 12s, and we got enough to get half a truck, or we got enough to put a load together out of the distribution center, and it's got some shingles and some sheetrock and nails and lumber on it, and whatever, however they buy. But it's the people that are providing the liquidity and fluidity to the market right now are not truss manufacturers and treaters and contractor yards, and even the distributors aren't the ones contributing to the mill, to the activities of the mill, because when they say they sold many items or a few items and prices notched up a little, that's not a big strong indicator of massive buying. And you just got to consider where we are in the season. We're coming into the season where it's going to be the lowest time for production for the mills, but it's also a gradual slowing of starts and hammer swinging. So it's just
yeah. Let's look at the Southern Pine chart. That was a good thing we chatted about yesterday. I mean, if anybody is a quote unquote basis trader out there, bring up the basis charts and look at 2x6, 2x8, 2x10, and 2x12 pine against November and January, and you're going to see probably one of the widest spreads you've ever seen on that. Does that make sense? So why are
yeah.
2x6 and all those items out there so easily available right now, Matt? And still, like 2x6 is still bouncing along a low price, right?
Well, look at 2x10s in the 300s. I've been
Yeah.
here since August too. Like anything in the 300s is a good buy. I was 380. If it's 380 and you get an offer at 350, get some more. If you get an offer at 310, take some more. But I think anything in 300 for long term, and long term, I'm talking about 6-8 weeks and longer, is whatever you can take for inventory is a good buy. Because when you're down at those levels, you're not going to get beat on price. You're going to get beat on service. If you're buying in a $100 range of $300 or $400, that's not the make or break your
But
order.
that was one of the interesting things I saw. It was good always having you on and Charles yesterday. Is, man, this Southern Pine. If people aren't using this in an area that they can use it, we're shipping a lot more. So a big post frame builder up in Illinois that was buying spruce from lumber yards now, in a way, he buys big semi loads. He's buying Southern Pine 2x8, 2x10, and 2x4 16s now for his buildings.
Yeah, I was talking to a wholesaler yesterday that supplies the multifamily business, and he said they're shipping more Southern Pine further north they ever had before, and these guys are just letting it sit outside. They haven't had this stored before, so they don't have inside storage, and they don't have ability to get it paper covered, so they're just sitting outside and it's starting to look kind of crappy. So you start taking.
Put paper on it. Yeah, put paper on it if you're shipping it up there. But like, look you got wood coming in at $300 or $400 when the counterpart spruce is $500 or $600. It's a pretty big difference that you want to be able to switch them. Hey, Mark Ross, how are you doing from Arizona? Good to have you on. I know you're one of Matt Beamer's friends too, so it's always really great to have you on. And James Breck said traditional holders of inventory like dealers, distributors, retailers seem to be acting very cautious, and they have multiple channels to move product. The newcomers or the non-traditional holders of inventory do not have the same amount of output channel. If the buildup is in the non-traditional holders, it will take them a lot longer to move the inventory, hence overbought. I think James, I understand what you're saying. I think what Matt and I are saying these are actual framers and people that used to buy it. They have jobs sold that it's going to their jobs. They just didn't give it to a person they've normally given it to manage the risk. They internalized it, bought physical inventory, put it on the ground, and it's committed for. So it's lumber that's already bought for jobs they're not going to buy again, and it's not in the traditional system. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, and in addition to that, the people that expected to get that order next spring are thinking they've got that business coming.
Yeah.
So my concern is how much of that wood is thinking is going to be bought next spring it's already in a warehouse today.
Yeah,
I,
and this is a phenomenon that we saw happening over the last 6 months, 5 months, where people are like, um, well, instead of going to a futures market to cover something, they go to a physical market and buy it and put it on the ground. And they're like,
yeah, it's along those same lines. I don't see the market doing anything differently today from a builder side than they were doing in the beginning of the year, which is they're gearing up to build all they can, start all they can. The only thing they're not doing right now is telling the suppliers, go out and we'll take anything you buy and we'll just cover me, don't run out of lumber, and I'll take it at any price. And they're not saying that, but it's kind of implied thinking with prices at $500, then everybody's loaded up. They're not going to be caught by a surprise with no lumber and everybody needing to have it. So I think the pipeline is absolutely stuffed full for what we need over the next several months. And it's just a matter of how much longer, how much further do you want to stretch it out. But you got 1,700,000 starts and permits, and 1,300,000 completions. Then you got a year and a half's worth of work that you're talking about trying to squeeze into a year. And there's just no
yeah,
more capacity to complete.
no doubt. So I was going to look at the U.S. dry fir market, and the reason I wanted to look at that one, Greg brought up the fact that we had the first 6 months production numbers come out. Now, look, at some of that might have been skewed for the first half over the second half of 2020, but Western U.S. was actually up in production the first half of the year,
Yeah.
which is
So
I
was
guess
Canadian. So was Canadian lumber. Everything was up first half of the year.
so is Canadian. Now again, I'm trying to justify that to see, was that because of how much it was down in the second half of 2020, but or is it
No,
just
it's how much everybody was screaming for it when it was $1,200, and they
yeah,
thought
yeah,
they
yeah.
just so that's you figure out a way to squeeze a little more blood out of the turnip when you got those kind of numbers, and whether it's an extra hour on a shift. But most mills were not running 3 shifts back then anyway, so they could increase their production to 10-hour days on a couple of shifts, but it wasn't gonna. Nobody got crazy and added another whole 8-hour shift. It was just too hard to tool it and get the
Yeah,
people for it. So that was just a little bit of a really just tightening screws a little bit.
just quick interesting thing. The counter argument to this was Southern Pine, where I thought the production was going to be up the highest, was up the smallest percentage in the
Yeah,
South,
yeah. It was
right?
probably because it was already cranked about as much as it could be.
Yeah, I see, but it was an interesting fact. So it's always that's why it's interesting to actually dig down into the minutia of the details to see what's going on. James Breck said, "I agree, Matt. I just can't see." This is about the phantom inventory. I just can't see where all this lumber is going to go when the completions are so low.
It doesn't. I mean, that's kind of really. That's James. That's where you just stop the conversation. You go like, how much do you have? How much do you want to sell? How much is the only reason this market did what it did last year is because the builders gave their carte blanche permission to their buyers, to their suppliers, that they were good for the lumber. They would take it. Don't worry about the price. Just don't let them run out. And that I said this all through that. I said, do you really think price doesn't matter? Then I asked how many builders, multifamily builders, single family builders, are you prepared to pay $22,000 a thousand for OSB and for lumber? You go, well, I don't know about that. Well, then don't be telling you guys it's okay to go buy $1,500 lumber.
That's right.
Same thing. And we got oversupplied. The pipeline just got stuffed full, and it's happening again right now. The only difference is they're not. The prices are a lot lower, but there's still a time lapse that's got to happen before this wood can get worked through the system, and it's not going to be 30 days.
But Buzz is over in Michigan. He says in Go Blue State. I guess you guys got a really really tough rival against Rutgers this week. I hope you guys give them a game. Um, James said, I'm not familiar with the U.S. trucks manufacturing. Can they or do they use Southern Yellow Pine in their manufacturing?
Almost
Matt,
exclusively.
yeah, yeah. So North, number 2 and better, spruce, 1650, 2100, 2400, wides for agriculture, trusses in Southern Pine. But I will tell you that line of demarcation on Southern Pine moves farther north every year.
Yeah, it used to be the Mason-Dixon line, and now this stuff's going all the way to the Great Lakes. It's going to Michigan, and it's going all the way to the Canadian border.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right,
no doubt.
too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, a lot of Southern Pine in trusses. So, and it makes sense because that's where the production's going up. And once you can flip back and forth if you engineer your trusses right, but you need to have the right plates, for the holding capacity and all that. So it's not an easy switch between pine and spruce. Like, it's hard to keep a dual inventory. That's why a lot more people, as it moves farther north, are just it's easier for them to get it all the time, is from what I'm told, right? And they're making
and also you can, with spruce, you can't use a number two spruce. You can't use a number two spruce for a bottom cord, for example. You can use a number two southern pine to it for bottom cord. The 1850 MSR is comparable to the number two southern yellow pine, and you got to get an MSR product and spruce to do it. It's just a deal. Yes, the regular old common number two that's used for, just basis of everything is good enough to use for a floor truss, or strong enough to use for floor. I mean, a bottom plate or a top plate for a cord for a truss.
Let's shoot over to OSB real quick. So we got plenty of prompt OSB in the Southeast listed today. A buddy of mine said that one of the big mills out there is sold through November. I'm that's what I heard today. You hear anything on OSB at all, Matt?
I have to call BS on that. I haven't heard that unless there's one thing that's been changing in OSBs a little bit is the mills realized that there was so much premium in the specialty boards. A lot of them have claimed to say they were going to make less, just 7/16 and underlayment for walls and floors and roofs, and start making more specialty product. And if that happens, that's going to take some of that common board away.
The commodity.
That could be happening. Yeah, they could be the commodity 7/16. It was $60 a sheet. Now it's $15 a sheet. It looks like a good thing, a good bet to put in the warehouse and hold on for a little while.
Yeah, and so what it'll do is, it's the old history, Econ 101 of overvalued, undervalued. It'll turn the specialty board into a commodity board just by the mere fact that it'll be overproduced at some point then.
Yeah, and really by comparison to the last several years, OSB is really pretty cheap. But OSB can be, if you look at the scale down a little bit at that 6x10 historical there on the bottom box right below you.
Yeah, can you scroll down to that 6x10, Nick? There we go.
Yeah, look at that top line. You're looking for the last 10 years. Look where prices have been. There's, let's see, the 2011 is in the 100s. 2013 almost down to like $200. This is for the next 6 weeks, 165, 75. It was what, 6-8 years there in a row where $200 and and those guys are making money. Nothing's changed.
There was always
they're not complaining at all.
I think Charles was saying, and I'm going to butcher this, but he was saying he used to know a guy in the industry said that if you can buy OSB below 200 in the third quarter and hold it into the first quarter, that was always a winning thing. I don't know how. Obviously, that number's a long ways away from there ever again.
OSB tends to, when it gets low, it tends to stay low for a long time. It seemed like I remember one time we were about $125, and it seemed like it was $125 for a half a year or so. It was just like it was just never going to come out. There was just plenty of it, but that was probably 2009 or so when we were having a housing recession.
So let's go back up to the chart real quick on OSB. Take a look at it. It looks like we kind of made that low week 33 slowly ground a little bit off the bottom of that. Inventory prices at end users probably still was collapsing from the highs down to the end users are probably still seeing a little bit more relief now on pricing. But I don't know. That one is just kind of sitting there and grinding along the bottom. But that's a big one that people store and use and can hold. So I'm sure that's sitting in some warehouses too right now.
Look at that price trend on the black line above it. It basically goes flat until around Halloween or Thanksgiving. So we're certainly lower than that, but the tendency is this is the time of the year when OSB just takes care of itself. It spins sideways. So you get $10 or $15 price moves up and down. It's pretty insignificant, but as long as we're not having these $150 or $200 swings, everybody should be pretty happy. But
so let's go back to
I don't expect much to happen.
Let's go to the framing package index, and I had a conversation with somebody the other day. Are we still on 30-day locks between the big yards and who they sell to builders, or have they moved back out to 90 yet? I heard everybody's still 30.
Everybody's still 30. Nobody. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He said that he's trying to. Some of the multifamily guys are trying to get 6 month quotes and that kind of stuff, and it just they're not. Nobody's even entertaining it. It's just like you said, like Matt says, the recent memories the most recalled. So people are still fearful of those high prices, and
Well, you can get
probably it's
you can get 6 month pricing. You may not like the 6 month pricing. Somebody will give it to you, but like,
yeah.
look at I heard I know people that do 6 month pricing and they're putting numbers on there, but you can see with the premium and futures that it's going to be a big number relative to buy and hold. Well, it's going to be a big number relative to buy and hold. All you got to do is say how much does it cost to buy, hold it, interest, storage, versus what's the premium I'm on giving all that to somebody else to quote me $200 above the spot market, right?
Well, you got to think also that the people that are asking for in October for long-term commitments are pretty savvy people. They understand what's going on in the lumber market, and that's typically a low time to buy. You're not going to find people in May asking you for 6 month commitments,
Yeah, that's a
but
good
this
point.
time of year, this time of where you will. So from a supplier side, it's not a good idea to take long-term commitments. It may be in September, but certainly not the end of October, I wouldn't think. But
Unless you
and,
have it
and you
spread,
ask yourself the
unless
question.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll say it, and let's be realistic about, do we think we're going to do in 2022 or in 2021? Are people going to just go out and just start panic buying and hoarding and stacking? And are we going to have another ice freeze where it freezes up resin and there's a shortage of OSB? I mean, that may happen again, but that was a real freaky year that made all that happen. And you saw what happened as soon as it got semi-resolved or got adequately bought for. The thing just crashed in $1,000 in 2 months.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to have that kind of price extreme like next year, unless we have some sort of phenomenal supply shortage problem. But there's too much delay in the pipeline in the completions process of a home to get excited about just stacking a bunch of lumber up, thinking all of a sudden it's just going to start flowing out the door like crazy.
Could that, I mean, what's the odds of that all opening up? Labor issues, all that, just all of a sudden that pipeline expanding with all of these things contracting it, starting to remedy themselves.
Yeah, I heard a thing about this the dock workers, whatever that union is, has negotiations coming up this fall, and they can expect that I think the last time they had a union negotiation, they were out for 2 months.
Yeah, no,
So
I was just curious. So, I mean, the one thing is when you see the amount of homes permitted not started, that's I guess that's a good sign for building. I mean, it looks still pretty darn strong going
yeah,
forward, right?
break that down and look at the difference between single family and multifamily.
Okay,
It's
I did.
mostly multifamily. Most of the activity, the increase in the increases in last month's activity were predominantly multifamily. Multifamily is up like 20%, and actual new home starts, if I'm not mistaken, were down 2%.
Okay, I'll have to break that
So it's a
down.
it's a skewed number. You throw the big 1.7 out there, and there's but it's not 1.7 million homes that are 2,500 square feet. It's 550 of those are 900 square feet.
Tell me about the framing package index this week. Anything different on that one? Let's look.
But it's really you can see where it's bottomed out, and the prices, the replacement prices with the black lines are a little bit higher than the red lines, which kind of shows you that the prices for a builder, prices are going to probably be a little better in October than they were in September. But you should probably expect them to start kind of bottoming out. This October will probably be as good as it's going to be for the year for builders for the framing packages. I would say they'll probably start edging up, or at least just bottoming out
Yeah, for the
as
most
we
part,
get going into
most
the end of
part,
the year.
yeah, these are decent numbers when I look back over the historical the historical
Yeah,
average here.
you can see why somebody wants to lock it. You can see why you want a 90-day lumber lock right here, because it doesn't matter if it goes up or down $100. These are well within budget numbers for builders and developers, and they just want to get the coverage. They don't care at this point. They don't care about the price as long as the price is this is the price.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's one reason why a lot of people are going out well, I'm just thinking about it here. If I'm a builder and I can't get 90-day locks, uh, I'm only getting 30 days. I'm going to load a warehouse up if I think it's a good buying opportunity too, because I'll protect myself, right? If the
Yeah,
person
especially if you do nothing but studs and your plates and your OSB and just get some of your big volume items and get those things covered. And I think that's what people are doing. And
Well, that's the hard thing, right? And I mean, look at people do at these at yards do so much from growing up in one, right? You supply. Like my father used to always hate it when somebody bought the framing package from somebody else, and then we had to ship all the other stuff out, right? Or and
yeah,
also sometimes he loved it when we shipped the framing pack. Didn't have to get it, but we got the windows and doors, right? So,
right.
um,
High volume stuff,
but
high profit stuff. Yeah,
there's so much things that people do like eye joist. Well, eye joist is a big thing, and you got to go through your yard to get that right because that's not something that you can
yeah.
spec on. Is that ever has that remedied
No,
itself yet at all? Eye joist and engineered?
not. It's still on the top 10 hit list of problems. It's still causing delays
Yeah,
and substitutions are. I've noticed like 2x12s in Southern Pine are getting to be a little more difficult to find, which they do this later in the year anyway. But if you're thinking about it, if that's one of your solutions for your headers or your floor joists or floor systems or roof, yeah, second floor, first floor roof floor systems, you might want to think about getting those things covered because there's going to be a lot of people looking for them, and it's just only about 5% of Southern Pine production is number two by 12s.
yeah.
It's pretty thin.
Well, look, Matt, we're up against a half an hour here, a little over it. So I appreciate it. Come to Layman's Guide. It's LaymansGuide.com to sign up for Matt. Matt Matt will make you take his product without having you pay for it for a certain amount of time. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, you got to look at it free for 2 months before I'll even consider taking your money.
That's great. And if you want to be on the exchange, like some people did on our calls the other day, after listening to our users speak, come to mxlumber.com. That's mxlumber.com and register. And we will put you into our Salesforce CRM platform, documented up 557 ways, and get a hold of you and get you on the platform. Get you on the platform buying and selling.
You guys have had a lot of changes this week, haven't you,
Oh man, it's great.
on the
We've got
platform?
yeah, we have we actually released our first version of the UI that our CTO and our engineers. We have two engineers, a CTO now, so we're building a great team to internalize all of our IT. And I got to tell you, man, it's something. We've got a new director of sales, guy named Ryan Erickson, pitched for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Go Hawkeyes! And then was in the minor league system with the Chicago White Sox. He's got us on CRM and working with John, our CTO. We're a software company, man, and we're moving this industry into the 21st century, whether they like it or not, right? So the way I always like to say it, Matt.
The last 2 or 3 it's
What's
been
that?
it's been a big change. I was just noticing for myself, just when I was on there, just look kind of. I like to look around just to see what's being offered. And one of my pet peeves was you couldn't get rid of your watch list, but you guys did something to make it where you can. That watch list just almost disappears when you
Yeah, so
touch it if you want to. So it's
we're
got
constant
a
we're
lot more efficient.
constantly John and his team are constantly improving that now. And what we're doing now is going around surveying users and finding out what they want, what they like, what they don't like, and you know we're working on getting it on one of these so you can be in your F-150 buying and selling lumber. And it's
Right.
the change
Your electric F-150.
the electric with the 35-watt 100-watt generator, right? So the
Yeah, you got
change is
150 miles to drive. And you got to park.
the changes coming to materials exchange over the next 6 months is going to blow away. First of all, people that think they're our competition. It's gonna bring the industry into they're gonna love using it. It's gonna be like when you I had to buy a flashlight last night and I went to Amazon and bought it. Right? It's gonna be similar to you just go up on the exchange and you put your bid or your offer and you buy it. So I always love talking about the market and trying to be transparent on these calls. But I got to tell you, when every human being out there that bought and sold lumber the way that they currently do it, and there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. We want everybody, we want to be inclusive. But here's a perfect example, Matt. Yesterday on the call with Charles, we talked about stuff that nobody knew about, right? Nobody knew about what some certain things, and we did that on a venue going through a LinkedIn live and a YouTube live, and a large distributor saw it and called the guy direct to buy it. And it was cool. Charles said, "Hey, you got to go through the exchange to buy it." Right. So what I'm saying is what we're doing on these calls, what we're doing at Materials Exchange, I know this because people call that aren't even in the industry watching this, right? And they talk about what you say, what I say, what Greg says, Matt says, Charles says, Mike says, what everybody says, and it's changing things, and that's the intention, to not stay the same forever. So I appreciate all the help you give us, because you give us a ton, and your support is pretty amazing. We thank you for that.
Glad to be able to be a part of it.
All right, everybody.
Exciting times.
We'll see. And we have our Friday Smart Market call that we've just started going live on LinkedIn and YouTube tomorrow. And hey, Mike, what time's our Smart Market call tomorrow? We got our Smart Market call tomorrow. We will put that out live on LinkedIn, so you have it. You got to come to that. It's great. We've got great guests on that one. So everybody have a great Thursday. We'll look forward to seeing you the rest of the week, and being on the mxlumber.com platform.
Peace out.
Peace out.